Everyone knows the story of King Solomon and the two women who lived in the same house. And both these women gave birth to a child, and one night one of them woke up to discover her baby had died in his sleep. She quickly got up and swapped her dead baby with the healthy living baby beside his sleeping mother. On waking up, the other woman found the dead baby beside her and immediately knew that that was not her child. A row ensued between the two women, each claiming that the living baby was her own. They sought justice before King Solomon. There was no way to decide who was the real mother of which baby. So, in his wisdom, the king said, "Get me a sword." So they brought a sword before the king, and the king said, "Cut the living child in two and give half to the one and half to the other." The woman who was not the real mother said, "He shall be neither mine nor hers. Cut him." The real mother was terrified and pleaded, "Pardon me, my lord. Give my living child to her. By no means kill him. Like that he will live." Was this just a question of who had the right over the child? The cold legal approach was absolutely useless to discover who indeed had a right for the child. The fake mother wanted a baby but was incapable of loving the baby. The real mother loved her baby so much that she was ready to give him up and lose him to save the child. In today's Gospel, Jesus makes a very challenging statement in the parable of the two sons. At first sight, the story seems to speak of a good, devoted son and of a rebellious, selfish son. The older son remained at home, totally devoted to helping his father's work in the fields and to keep the household. This is the apparently good, obedient, poster perfect, faithful son. The younger is the irresponsible brat of a son who claims the inheritance that was his by right. And then he goes to waste it in dissolute and sinful living. What a bad, ungrateful, irresponsible son. And well, you know the story when he ends up alone and starving. Well, it was then that he returns back to his father. His rights had got him nowhere. The older son, the poster perfect faithful son, could not stomach the way his father welcomed his dissolute rascal of a son. Instead of sending him packing back to his self inflicted misery, the father embraced him and set up a lavish welcome back party for him. The older son became livid with anger, refusing to set even his foot in the house where his brother had come to exploit once more his father's naive goodness. How shocking! Was it working all this time, all these years, and sweating every day in his father's fields? And his brother not only got half the inheritance, but also on his return, he got the fattened calf to celebrate his return. Was this justice? Whereas the older son, the faithful one, who had been toiling away at his father's fields for so many years, he got nothing. He was so angry at his father's unjust spoiling of his brother. What about his own rights? Didn't he deserve and have a right to at least a young goat to have a party with his friends? This is the infernal and divisive dynamics that ruin and destroy relations between us. When we choose to claim and rely and depend on just our rights. We get locked up in what we think we deserve by right and end up fighting one another to defend our rights. Yes, rights are essential, but only where there is no love, where there is no fraternal spirit among us. Rights become essential when and where self interest is the name of the game. Wherever love abides, it is the good of the loved one that is the name of the game. Where there is love, rights become superfluous, unnecessary, because love puts first the needs and well being of the beloved rather than its own. The joy of the beloved is the name of the game. And the good father of the parable tells his elder son, "My son, you are here with me always. Everything I have is yours. But now we must celebrate and rejoice because your brother was dead and he has started living again." Relying only on our rights is indeed necessary. But only when we live in the kingdom of selfishness. Then you have to defend your rights. It ensures and secures survival. But living in the kingdom of God is experiencing the real, joyful life of pure freedom. Freedom to simply share the same happiness that belongs to all. Because love does not calculate. Love knows only how to give without counting the cost and without claiming back anything in return. No wonder that a society where God and love are absent ends up depending only on an ever increasing litany of rights to survive in all areas. Freedom of speech, sexual health, sexual freedom. I have a right to abort an unwanted baby. Euthanasia. I have a right to end my life. Use and abuse of our own bodies. A right for my money, privacy, property. The list is never ending. But rights alone will keep us stuck in miserable calculations and conditions. This is not a bad start for those whose measuring stick is their own interests. They help make their lives at least more just and reasonable. But for those who, like the father of the parable, choose the way of love, there is much more to life than just our own rights. For true lovers, calculated human justice is a mere first tiny step towards the supreme, unconditional, and dazzling self giving of those who know how to love. If we let love inspire our relationships, we will have discovered the ultimate freedom that makes our lives not simply just, but brilliantly right and joyous. Then we can indeed celebrate the feast of joy, the feast of love, and we will have experienced heaven on earth.